This is a World Cup 2026 update. Filling in for Talking Ginger at the TNO Sports Desk, Talking Paul.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to day 16 of the FIFA World Cup. Before we get to the match previews and recaps, we've got some news from FIFA. FIFA has suspended the All-Nepal Football Association over third-party interference, imposing an indefinite ban that sidelines Nepal from international football and deepens uncertainty over the sport's governance. According to a statement published on FIFA's website, the decision taken by the Bureau of the FIFA Council took place yesterday. The world governing body cited third-party interference in the affairs of ANFA as the reason for the suspension. The suspension means Nepal's national teams and clubs can no longer participate in competitions organized by FIFA or the Asian Football Confederation, that's the AFC. ANFA, its member bodies and officials will also lose access to FIFA and AFC funding, development programs, training opportunities, and educational courses until the suspension is lifted. Alrighty, let's get to our match recaps from yesterday. We had 6 games on the schedule. We had Curacao against Ivory Coast, Ecuador against Germany, Tunisia against the Netherlands, Japan against Sweden, Turkey against the United States, and Paraguay against Australia. Nicolas Pepe scored twice yesterday to fire Ivory Coast to the second phase of a World Cup for the first time, with a 2-0 win over Curacao. The 31-year-old slotted in the opening goal after 7 minutes of the game at the Philadelphia Stadium. He added the second midway through the second half to effectively end Curaçao's hopes of advancing to the knockout stages on their first appearance at the World Cup. In the last 32, Ivory Coast will play the runners-up in Group I, either 2022 finalists France or Norway. Ecuador produced a rousing fight back to come from behind and beat Germany 2-1 in their final Group E match in New Jersey to put themselves into the last 32 of the World Cup. Leroy Sané had fired Germany, who were already qualified as group winners, into an early lead at the MetLife Stadium before Nilson Angelo soon had Ecuador level after 9 minutes. Germany had a penalty at the start of the second half overturned following a VAR review for a foul in the build-up. Gonzalo Plata stabbed in the winner with 13 minutes left to leave the South Americans on 4 points and top of the third-place rankings. Ecuador's victory furthered then Scotland's hopes of making it through to the last 32. Steve Clark's side, who had 3 points and a -3 goal difference, now dropped down into the final 8th spot, but with other groups still to finish. Brian Brobby scored his 3rd goal of the World Cup. The Netherlands got a pair of goals that deflected off Tunisia into its own net, and the Dutch rolled in the rain to a 3-1 victory last night. And with the win, the Netherlands advanced to the knockout stage as the winners of Group F. Tunisia, which sacked its coach after a loss to open the World Cup, had already been eliminated from the tournament. Daisen Maeda gave Japan the lead, and Anthony Elanga took it away 6 minutes later, helping Sweden to a 1-1 draw last night that sent both teams to the knockout round of the World Cup. Japan is advancing out of the group stage for the 3rd consecutive World Cup and 5th time in 7 tries since first reaching the round of 16 as co-hosts in 2002. The Japanese team finished 2nd in Group F behind the Netherlands and will play Brazil in Houston on Monday. Kaan Ayhan scored on the final kick of the match, and Turkey beat the United States 3-2 last night for its only win of the World Cup. Austin Trusty scored in the 3rd minute, and Sebastian Berhalter got a tying goal early in the second half for the Americans, who had already won Group D with victories over Paraguay and Australia. Coach Mauricio Pochettino's team will meet Bosnia-Herzegovina in the round of 32 on Wednesday. Australia and Paraguay played to a 0-0 draw last night in a result that clinched a spot in the knockout round of the World Cup for the Socceroos and will likely be enough for the Paraguayans to advance. This marks the 3rd time that Australia have advanced to the knockout round after losing in the round of 16 in 2006 and 2022. The Socceroos will play in the round of 32 on July 3rd in Arlington, Texas, against the 2nd place finisher from Group G that will be determined tonight. Now with those games out of the way, let's look ahead to today's games. We have Norway against France, Senegal against Iraq, Cabo Verde against Saudi Arabia, Uruguay against Spain, New Zealand against Belgium, and Egypt against Iran. France will face Norway in their third and final Group I match of the World Cup today at Boston Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts on Fox. Both Norway and France won their first two group games to secure a spot in the knockout stage, and this heavyweight showdown will decide which of them wins Group I. For the fourth straight World Cup, France has opened with two wins, being Senegal 3-1 and Iraq 3-0. Meanwhile, in its first World Cup since 1998, Norway is off to a dream start of its own so far this summer, beating Iraq 4-1 and Senegal 3-2 in its first two matches. With the group on the line, many believe this match may be the game of the group stage. So who comes out on top? You're going to have to find out. Senegal will face Iraq in their third Group I match of the World Cup at Toronto Stadium in Toronto, Canada on FS1. Both Senegal and Iraq lost their first two group games to France and Norway. However, both nations are still alive to advance as a third-place team. Despite going toe-to-toe for a good majority of its first two games, Senegal lost to France 3-1 and Norway 3-2. Senegal has allowed 3 goals in 3 of its last 4 matches overall. Before that, Senegal hadn't allowed 3 goals in the 43 straight games prior. With a win in this match, the Lions of Teranga have a chance to make consecutive World Cup knockout stages for the first time in its nation's history. Meanwhile, Iraq lost to Norway and France by a combined score of 7-1. With a -6 goal differential, even a win might not be enough to advance. Nonetheless, Iraq searches for its first men's World Cup win after being the 5th nation to lose its first 5 World Cup matches. Cabo Verde's fairy tale World Cup debut continues today as it chases a shock place in the round of 32 at the expense of Saudi Arabia. Stunning draws with Spain and Uruguay ensure the African island nation has a genuine shot at reaching the knockout stage, and a victory over Saudi Arabia would confirm that place. A draw would be enough if Spain beats Uruguay or if Cabo Verde ranks as one of the 8 best third-place teams. Saudi Arabia knows victory is essential to avoid an early exit after its opening draw with Uruguay was followed by a thumping loss to Spain. However, anything less than maximum points from today's match would see the team eliminated. A tantalizing affair will have significant consequences one way or another. Speaking of Uruguay and Spain, those two teams are set to face off in a highly anticipated Group H melee of the World Cup at Guadalajara Stadium on Fox. After a shocking 0-0 draw against Cape Verde in its opener, Spain bounced back in a big way with a 4-0 win over Saudi Arabia. Spain's 70% possession and plus 40 shot difference through 2 games are both the best of any team with no opponent red cards at this tournament. Spain is unbeaten in 32 straight games since March 2024, the second longest undefeated run in its nation's history. Meanwhile, Uruguay finds itself in a very uncomfortable situation. Uruguay had 66% possession and 44 shots, but only have 2 points after drawing 1-1 with Saudi Arabia and 2-2 with Cape Verde. Uruguay needs a win here to automatically advance and potentially even win the group. If it draws, it will need help in a Cape Verde-Saudi Arabia match, as second place could come down to tiebreakers. Belgium has a shot at redemption when taking on New Zealand in its Group G finale today, needing victory to guarantee a place in the last 32 of the competition. The Red Devils are currently third in the standings after hugely underwhelming draws with Egypt and Iran, but 3 points against the All-Whites would still send the team through. A draw could be enough depending on the result of Egypt versus Iran, we'll get to that in a little bit, while defeat would almost certainly mean elimination. New Zealand has a large amount to climb if it wants to progress to the knockouts for the first time, after collecting just 1 point from its 2 opening matches. Anything but a win will send the Oceania Football Confederation's only representative home. Victory might still not be enough to clinch a spot in the top 2, although it would all but guarantee progression in 3rd place at the very least. Realistically, Belgium should finally secure a first tournament win and advance, but Rudy Garcia's team haven't earned the faith of supporters after 2 tepid displays so far. And finally, Mohamed Salah's Egypt will look to confirm their spot in the World Cup knockouts for the first time in 92 years when the North African Giants face Iran, whose tournament has been shaped more by politics than played tonight. Buoyed by their 3-1 win over New Zealand, Egypt's first at the World Cup, the record 7-time African champions can reach the round of 32 should they beat Iran, while a draw may also be enough depending on other results. Despite dealing with an unprecedented World Cup geopolitical nexus whereby the tournament co-host, the United States, went to war against their nation, Iran are also within reach of advancing to the knockouts for the first time. And that will do it for this daily update. I'm Talking Paul, and I'll see you here tomorrow for another update.
This has been a World Cup 2026 update.